Welcome to Donington Park. It's round 2 of the HMT Racing Pre-National Sport 600s, and pole position should be Matthew Jones, but unfortunately absent. Second is Chris Wilkinson, with Barry Teasdale, number 224 there, third place, and Dean Pearce fourth on the grid. Coming into Donington Park, Michael Golden it was that led the championship ahead of Jamie Morris, Matthew Jones and Ben Neary. But what have we got in store here for the first race at Donington Park? Well, I can tell you that we've got around about 14 or 15 riders that qualified that haven't made the grid for this one for various reasons. You can see a couple of gaps on the grid, whether it's due to mechanical issues or a fall and an injury. We'll hope to find out ready, and hopefully they'll be fit for the next race. But the green flag waves at the back and the lights are out, and it looks like a fine start from rider 224. That's Barry Teasdale out there on the CBR 600, and a good start also on the Triumph for the blue number 6 Dean Pearce. Oh, and there's a rider down already as we head into Redgate Corner. That's Sonny Martin, and he's lucky to get up and walk away, not to have been collected by other riders. Sonny, who came to Donington Park 8th overall in the championship. Back to the front there, we can see that was 224 just going through. Barry Teasdale, followed by Chris Wilkinson, number 43, but leading on the blue and white Triumph, sporting the number 6, is Dean Pearce. So around Johns Curve into McLean's, and now the short stretch up to the blind entry point at Coppice Corner. On the knee, get on the power, ready for the Dunlop Straight. I can tell you that Matthew Jones, who didn't start this race, hopefully will be on the grid for race 2, a rider from Wales that we're expecting to feature quite highly in this championship. Down into Foggy Esses though, the leader there, Dean Pearce, just coming under a bit of pressure from Barry Teasdale, number 224. And as we filter through the grid, that there is number 36, Adam Extons, who had a reasonable round back at Brands Hatch. Back at the front, it is still number 6, Dean Pearce, that leads from Barry Teasdale and Chris Wilkinson. Number 93, Ben Neary, who almost got caught up in that incident earlier, is making good progress. And there's number 88, the championship leader coming into Donington Park, Michael Golden. This pre-racing or pre-national sport 600 class, of course, is ideal for rookies. The riders are out there on Formula and Superstock 600 machines, and it really is a great foundation for riders looking to move up into the Sportsman Elite 600 with ThundersportGB, as we just see a shot there of number 51, Charlie Flett. But yes, these riders, most of them all rookies. Of course, the riders with the least experience will be sporting the orange jackets, the orange bibs in this race, but the two leaders here just pulling away from Chris Wilkinson. That's Dean Pearce then on the Triumph, and Barry Teasdale, number 224 on the Honda. Barry, who wasn't present at Brands Hatch, so is picking up as many points as possible. Those of you that are really into your racing that may have heard of a Barry Teasdale before from Blunderston in Suffolk, it's not the same rider. It's unusual to see two riders with exactly the same name, but this is not the same Barry Teasdale. So those of you in Suffolk getting excited, you can stop now. But we come up into Goddard's hairpin, and it's still Pearce from Teasdale and Wilkinson in third place there. They've all broken away from the chasing pack that includes the likes of Greg Scanlon, Dan Hill, Adam Extons and Luke Shelley. Down into Redgate Corner, the three leaders. A tidy line there from Teasdale, number 224, as he looks to try and go on the power as early as possible. And Chris Wilkinson has just closed that gap down a little bit. It was a decent lap from him that time around. As number 126 there, that's Dean Young, goes through ahead of Michael Golden. Dean Young, who's been a regular part of the ThundersportGB package since day one, really. He's been on that 600 Yamaha of his. So good to see he's nice and loyal, and he's out there trying to pick up as many points as possible. Currently in around 10th and 11th place. There's Chris Wilkinson, number 43, currently in third place, and there's been a change for the lead. So Barry Teasdale has managed to get himself ahead now of Dean Pearce on circuit, and Dean Pearce for the first time will just be able to follow Teasdale's lines and perhaps see where he's quicker or slower. The Triumph 675, of course, a 600 machine that was so popular over the last couple of seasons, this year hasn't been tipped for quite so much success, but Pearce is doing a fine job in this HMT Racing Pre-National Sport 600 so far. Further back, that is Luke Shelley with the orange bib on, wearing in the black Honda CBR, just in 4th place. Barry Teasdale it is that leads though, 2:24. He's just put in a lap of a 1:40.3, and Chris Wilkinson's time pretty much matched that. That's Greg Scanlon, another rider who's been in the ThundersportGB paddock for a considerable number of years, and good to see Greg out there. He's on the stock Yamaha 600, number 131. Most of the riders that have the red backing with the yellow numbers tend to be stock machines, but that's not to say that any one of these riders are not on stock machines. It doesn't actually matter how tuned your bike is in this class, but if you are a winner, you do get a fully paid entry into the next ThundersportGB round into the Sportsman Elite, and some suspension tips from HMT Racing and PCR, which is the Phil Crow setup. Barry Teasdale it is that leads from Dean Pearce. They've just, again, just broken away slightly there from 3rd place man Chris Wilkinson on the Yamaha, but we have 3 different motorcycle manufacturers taking up the top 3 spots. It's Honda from Triumph, from Yamaha. It's always nice to see. A little bit further back, the only Kawasaki is Michael Golden, number 88, who I mentioned entered this weekend as championship leader, but will probably lose that championship lead if he stays where he is. That's 311 Dan Hill on the black Yamaha R6, currently in and around 7th place. And that black and white Suzuki that you can see there, number 156 with the orange bib, that's Paul Goodwin in 21st place. Paul is currently just ahead of Colin Wilson, number 31 on the Suzuki GSX R600, the green and white camouflage machine. Originally from Glasgow, now based in RNAS Yeovilton as a leading aircraft engineer, and he's another rider, first time with ThundersportGB, first time at Donington Park, riding for the Royal Navy Motorsport Association. So we're looking to try and get as many guys from the Royal Navy as possible so that they can have their inter-championships with the RAF and the Army. Back at the front, that's 224 Barry Teasdale, who's now been leading for a couple of laps, and looks like he's enjoying it. 2nd place, Dean Pearce on the Triumph. And Chris Wilkinson, well, he gets quite close to the 2 leaders as they make their way into Redgate, and then just loses them a little bit through Hollywood and Craner Curves. The famous Craner Curves, of course. They're some of the favourite corners of most riders. One of the best circuits in the world, this. They make their way around the flat-out, almost Schwantz curve, and then it's on the brakes and change direction of the bike into McLean's. A good overtaking opportunity, but the corner does tighten up on you. You can then wind the power on and just go up to the top of the crest of this hill before tipping into Coppice Corner, a long right-hander, and it's really a matter of how early you dare put the throttle on before making your way onto the Dunlop Straight. There's number 36, Adam Extance, just currently having a scrap for 7th place. Beautifully turned out machine, Adam Extance's Honda CBR 600. And there is number 81, that's Eric Wilson, also on a CBR 600. He's just outside the points at the moment in 16th place. And there is the green and white camouflage machine I was mentioning earlier, Colin Wilson from the Royal Navy. Colin currently in 23rd place, but do love to see those camouflage bikes out there. Great colour scheme. Back at the front, still Barry Teasdale it is that leads this first race here at Donington Park in the HMT Racing Pre-National Sport 600s, ahead of Dean Pearce and Chris Wilkinson. But I can tell you that Pearce has just put in a lap slightly quicker. There's number 16, that's Danny Ingham just going through ahead of Dan Hill. We saw a glimpse of the back end of Luke Shelley's machine having a lonely race in 4th at the moment, and there is a change at the front, and Dean Pearce's fastest lap that he just put in, a 1:39.4. The only rider into the 39s means that he now leads the Pre-National Sport 600 race, and as we come to the closing stages, maybe we've got a race on. There is Danny Ingham just ahead of Dan Hill. That is the fight for 5th place, 5th and 6th, and Hill is just ahead of Extance, and Michael Golden's also in there, and Ingham just struggling to get on the power on the exit of the old hairpin. But Dean Pearce, well, these couple of laps, well, he's given himself a couple of tenths lead now over Barry Teasdale, with Chris Wilkinson possibly, yeah, well, Chris Wilkinson's just fallen back a little bit in 3rd, but the lonely race there for the orange-bibbed Luke Shelley. And then Greg Scanlon is in 5th place. Back down through Craner Curves goes Dean Pearce, the leader, and he's followed by Barry Teasdale and Chris Wilkinson. There is Pearce on the Triumph, 6.75. Rider from Sheffield. And this will do his confidence the world of good, as he's being chased there by the Prudhoe rider of Barry Teasdale on the Honda CBR 600, rider that led 3 or 4 laps of this race before finally being taken by Dean Pearce. There is Luke Shelley, number 13, rider from Tamworth on the Honda. First ever season in motorcycle racing. And a bit further back there, this is the scrap that I mentioned, and where has Daniel Ingham gone? He's not leading that battle anymore, and Dan Hill's fallen back a couple of places. Michael Golden has moved up one, so maybe we've lost Daniel Ingham as we look a little bit further back, and that's number 81 again. Eric Wilson is just behind Jeff Booth, but ahead of Gary Hignett and Matt Parker. Back at the front though, just Michael Dexter going through. He's about to be lapped by Dean Pearce. And as the rider makes his way onto the start-finish straight, the last lap flag appears. The yellow flag with a black cross, and that means there's just one more loop of this Donington Park GP circuit to go for Dean Pearce. And he's got himself a good enough lead there, I think, to probably take him through to victory. Barry Teasdale just goes through there with the black, whites and blue leathers in 2nd place ahead of Chris Wilkinson, who's just out of shot. This is 4th place man Luke Shelley, number 13. Luke, who was 9th in the championship, coming away from Brands and into Donington, and he'll pick up some healthy points. There's Adam Extons, number 36 ahead of Dan Hill. Michael Golden, there's Danny Ingham, so he did lose out on a couple of places. So he's moved back through the field, and he's just ahead of Andrew Cameron on this final lap. Onto the Dunlop Straight comes the leader, just on the right of the picture. That's Colin Wilson, who's about to be lapped. But it is going to be a win by the looks of things for Dean Pearce. Just a few more corners to deal with for Pearce, and it's going to be a great race win for him. It'll be his first race win in this HMT Racing Pre-National Sport. The only other win this weekend having gone to Wilkinson, and across the line goes Pearce. It's a win for the Triumph rider. He takes it ahead of Barry Teasdale, number 224. Chris Wilkinson does go across the line to collect 3rd place. So let's take a look at the results. The top 6 then. Dean Pearce it is that wins, 1.5 seconds clear of Barry Teasdale. Chris Wilkinson 3rd, ahead of Luke Shelley. Greg Scanlon picked up 5th place, ahead of Dan Hill. And there are the top 3 there. Dean Pearce in the middle, with Barry Teasdale and Chris Wilkinson.
Okay, Barry, that was a pretty hard-fought race for the two of you. How did you find it?
It was a good race. It's good to have a nice close battle. It's the first time I've done it, and obviously every time we go out the lap times are getting quicker and quicker, so it's good to run at the front, and it was a good battle. Shame I finished 2nd, but
there's always next time.
Aye, we'll try harder next time, I think.
Okay, Dan, that was an awesome race to watch. I mean, what was it like from the inside of the helmet?
I need to pick my fitness up a bit, but you know, can't believe I've won. I just like to thank my dad and everybody else that's helped me for last few years, and Thundersport, and a big thank you to all marshals as well, which I don't think get enough thanks off everybody.
Time for race 2 then, ThundersportGB's HMT Racing Pre-National Sport 600 race 2. And can Dean Pearce do the double here today? The sun is still shining, temperatures dropped a couple of degrees since that first race win for Dean Pearce. He won that ahead of Barry Teasdale and Chris Wilkinson, as we see Chris in shot there. There is Barry Teasdale, number 224. A couple of riders that we had absent from race 1 have made their way onto the grid for race 2, so hopefully we'll see a couple more battles up front. And there is the race 1 winner, Dean Pearce from Sheffield. On the Triumph, he'll be looking for another 25 points to add to his tally, and hopefully that's fully paid entry into the next round at Mallory Park in the Sportsman Elite 600s. Pole position should go to Matthew Jones, but Matthew's not made it to the grid. But the other gaps that were riders that were absent from race 1 have made it onto the grid for race 2, and the lights go out, and it's a good start from number 224, Barry Teasdale. Race 1 winner Dean Pearce just gets swallowed up a little bit, and Wilkinson's going to make it into second. No, he doesn't. Around the outside, and it's going to be Chris Wilkinson that leads this one and gets the whole shot from Barry Teasdale, as the full grid of 32 600s go into turn 1. Well, make that 31 because we've lost a rider there. Walking away to safety, and the men and women in orange will come and collect that bike. But at the front, it was a good start from Wilkinson as he got the whole shot, and Barry Teasdale was following. There is number 45, that's Joe Newbold. We didn't see him in race 1, so he's made it onto the grid and looks to try and get himself a podium. Good start there from Ben Neary as well, the rider that we saw getting caught up in that earlier incident in race 1. From 15th on the grid, he is up into the top 10. And one of the Kawasaki's there, that looks like Mark Burdett, number 33, was just going through, and there was number 93, Ben Neary. As the leaders make their way into Goddard's, it is Barry Teasdale that leads from Chris Wilkinson, and race 1 winner Dean Pearce in 3rd place. Chris Helliwell there on the Yamaha, the blue and white Yamaha, number 64, and the orange vest is in 4th place. And Wilkinson goes up the inside into Redgate. A number of lines that you can take into Redgate Lodge. That inside line certainly works, but you do lose that on the drive into Craner Curves, and he has done so there. Barry Teasdale then back up the inside, down to Craner Curves, and as they head into the old hairpin, a tight right-hander. It's caught so many riders out in the past. It's a three-way fight for the lead between Teasdale, Pearce and Wilkinson once more, although Chris Helliwell there looks like as though he wants in on the action in 4th place with the orange bib. Joe Newbold is in 5th place ahead of Adam Extance. Eric Wilson's got off to a better start, number 81. There is Pearce. Riders so far, well, it's only the opening few laps and opening exchanges of this second race in the HMT Racing Pre-National Sport 600s, but they are about 2 or 3 seconds off the lap times they posted in race 1, so maybe the conditions, certainly temperature-wise, have dropped considerably. Up the inside into the foggy S's goes Chris Wilkinson ahead of Barry Teasdale. Further back through the pack, this is the battle for 10th place, and there is number 33, Mark Burdett. Mark from Ibstock. But it's Barry Teasdale that manages to go through there. He's actually in 2nd place because that lap there from Chris Wilkinson, certainly the fastest of the race so far. And he's managed to pull out probably around about a 2 or 3 tenth lead. And Dean Pearce fancied to look up the inside into Redgate, but thought better of it. And the pair of them make their way down through Hollywood and into Craner Curves. Can they keep in touch with Wilkinson, who was a race winner already here this weekend? There's Michael Golden going in the inside of Ingham on the green Kawasaki, and he's got a bit of paper there on his front screen. Let's hope it's not a map to find out where he's going around this circuit. The championship leader coming into this event will have given up that championship lead after this weekend already. Is there going to be a change there for 2nd place? Not quite. Dean Pearce, the race 1 winner, looking for a way past Barry Teasdale. Up through Coppice they go, and Dean Pearce will be able to see that Chris Wilkinson is pulling away from these two now, and he's putting in laps probably about a second quicker. In fact, his lap times are 2 seconds, nearly 2 seconds quicker on that last lap alone. That's why his lead has managed to get out there. 4th place, 64, Chris Helliwell. And there is number 45, Jake Newbold. Up the front, there goes Chris Wilkinson, number 43, having put in a series of low 140 laps. Second now is that Dean Pearce, having fallen back a little bit from Barry Teasdale. We didn't see Barry Teasdale go through there, but certainly Dean Pearce looked to have fallen into the clutches of Jake Newbold and co. There's Golden on the Kawasaki once more, making his way onto the start-finish straight. But there's race leader Chris Wilkinson. That's about a 1.5 second lead over Barry Teasdale. So Dean Pearce has fallen back, and moving up to third place then Chris Helliwell on the Yamaha, number 64. Here he is, the blue and white Yamaha R6 with the white levers and the orange bib into the old hairpin. And this would be his first podium of the season with ThundersportGB. Around Schwantz Curve comes Chris Wilkinson. And well, his lap times are considerably quicker than the rest of the field, and he makes his way up into Coppice, riding very well indeed. These lap times would fare him all right in the Sportsman Elite 600 race. Might not pick him up any points, but he's learning some decent racecraft here, although at the moment it's almost like a test session for Chris. Lap after lap, he pulls away from Barry Teasdale, and now Chris Helliwell in third place. Through the foggy S's goes Wilkinson, followed by Barry Teasdale, and there is third place, Chris Helliwell. Let's have a look and see who's in fourth. Well, Dean Pearce has pulled away again now from Jake Newbold, so whatever mistake he had made, he might just be able to catch up again. Through Goddard goes the race leader, Chris Wilkinson, who picked up a number of points on the Saturday race here at Donington Park. Finished third in that first race here with ThundersportGB. There is number 45, the Honda rider, Joe Newbold, and the blue and red machine, the black leathers. And there is Barry Teasdale, number 224, who finished second in race 1, and looks as though he's going to be following it up with another second here in race 2, because at the moment his lap times suggest, well, a 42.1 is about 1.5 seconds slower than Chris Wilkinson's 140.6. Going through the field, Mark Burdett on the Kawasaki's into 7th place ahead of Dan Hill, Matt Parker down there ahead of Eric Wilson, Daniel Ingham, Michael Golden, Andrew Cameron, Dean Young. A number of riders looking to pick up as many points as possible, but around Schwantz Curve comes the race leader, and that's about a 4 or 5 second lead now. Into McLean's, Chris Wilkinson on the blue Yamaha R6, followed by the CBR 600. Beautifully turned out machine, that one, of Barry Teasdale, number 224. There's usually a story behind a number, but it's not every day you see a rider with number 224. We'll have to try and ask Barry at some point during the season what that's all about. Adam Eckwell up in the top 7. Just ahead of the fastest Kawasaki, Mark Burdett, number 33. Number 37 going through, that's Nick Kavanagh on the Yamaha, having a good battle with Dean Young. Back at the front, here's the race leader, number 43, Chris Wilkinson. Really pushing going into that final turn on the Yamaha, and he makes his way onto the start-finish straight. Not long to go now for Chris Wilkinson to pick up some chunky points, 25 of them going his way. He's almost got the lead of the start-finish straight as he heads into Redgate Corner, or just clipping the curve there, but really is pushing it. Not really required to, because Barry Teasdale, as I mentioned, a second a lap slower pretty much every time, but nevertheless, a good show here from Wilkinson. Makes his way around Craner Curves and down into that tricky right-hander, the old hairpin under Starkey's Bridge, and then almost flat out, a beautiful left-hander here at Schwantz Curve. Changed direction of the bike whilst braking into McLean's. In the wet, easy to lose the front end here. Back on the power, up the hill, short stretch to Coppice Corner. Another corner that can catch you out if you're too early on the throttle, ready for the Dunlop straight. But this is how to do a lap by Chris Wilkinson. Along the Dunlop straight comes the race leader, and you can see just in the background there, that's the lead he's got over Barry Teasdale. Into the foggy S's, which has been made a little bit easier since the redevelopment of that chicane. It's not quite as tight as it used to be. Barry Teasdale there in second place, doing a good job, although it's a bit of a lonely race. There is number 12, Paul Martin, and he's just about to be lapped, I think, by Chris Wilkinson, number 43. But this is a solid lap by the race leader. And as he comes across the line, this is going to match probably his fastest lap somewhere in that region. Chris Helliwell still in 3rd place, also having a bit of a lonely old time. He's still ahead of Dean Pearce though. There's Chris Wilkinson. We just followed him around the lap of this wonderful Donington Park GP circuit. And there is the race 1 winner, Dean Pearce. It's not going to be 25 points for him in this one. And he's now got to number 13. That's Luke Shelley for company. Luke, who, as I mentioned, came into this weekend 9th overall in the championship, but with a couple of 4th places, that's another 26 points in his pocket if he can keep hold of it. Number 81 there, that is Eric Wilson, ahead of Ingham and Golden. Just coming into shot, number 142, the bright Yamaha R6 is Dylan James. And that's number 37, Nick Kavanagh. Well, let's get back to the race leader then. Chris Wilkinson, number 43. So far, done very little wrong and has pulled out around about a 10-second lead in this race so far. Into Coppice Corner and then onto the Dunlop Straight. Championship, of course, sponsored by HMT Racing. Whole Beach Motorcycle Tyres, a long-standing supporter of ThundersportGB, and when you come into the paddocks you'll be able to see their big Bridgestone truck, and great supporters of the championship and a good supporter and sponsor of this race. There is 2nd place man Barry Teasdale, pretty untroubled in 2nd place at the moment, ahead of Chris Helliwell, and just a couple of more laps to deal with for these riders. And race leader comes around Goddard's on the power, onto the start-finish straight, and he sees the last lap flag now, so just a cruise around then for Chris Wilkinson. Into Redgate Corner comes the race leader on the power and down into Craner Curves. 2nd place is Barry Teasdale. Well, that's 3rd place man Chris Helliwell, who with that orange vest will be picking up a trophy at this rate in 3rd. He's got a decent enough advantage over Dean Pearce. Rider with the orange jacket there, that's David Brook, just ahead of the Kawasaki rider Mark Burnett. Oh, we have a rider down into Redgate. Oh, and that's a big off there. That's David Brook, and he went down with a lump, and that certainly will wind him. I think the rider's okay. There he is, Peekaboo. He's okay. He might just need a lay down and a cup of tea after that one. Well, not a lay down there, David, but maybe when you get back to the caravan, the men and women in orange just come over to see to him, and that'll be just him being winded. That he did come down with a bit of a lump, so hopefully rider is going to be okay. I'm sure he will be, but it's a fast place to come off there for David Brook, number 73 on the Yamaha R6, and he just put in a decent lap time then, a 43.8. So then, coming into foggy Esses, there is race leader Chris Wilkinson. Just a couple of corners to deal with now. Left and a right flick. 2nd place is Barry Teasdale with Chris Helliwell in 3rd, sorry. Oh, but Barry Teasdale there is going through. Where's Chris Wilkinson? Chris Wilkinson has gone missing, the race leader. Oh, we've got a red flag out. A red flag, and across the line there goes Barry Teasdale. And I wonder if that was Chris Wilkinson that goes down. I think it was. Barry Teasdale's going to be confirmed the race winner there ahead of Chris Helliwell. It's Dean Pearce that's taken 3rd, Luke Shelley 4th, Joe Newbold 5th, and in 6th place, Adam Extons. And there is the winner, Barry Teasdale, but we hope Chris Wilkinson's okay. Despite that mysterious crash, Wilkinson it is that leads by 2 points ahead of Golden and Teasdale. Locked on 85 points. Neary in 4th, Brook and Martin follow.